I want to apologize. This video is going to be very long, but the first thing we're going to do on the Google Chrome is to type in www.cic.gc.ca. And when we're done that, we have to click on enter. So let us go back and hit the enter button. Once you're there, allow it to load. It will bring you to this page where you click on English. And then here is the Immigration and Citizenship website, or where you can apply for study, work, or immigration to Canada and check the application form or the status of your application. We scroll all the way down, guys. You can read this on at your own leisure. It's information for other people from other countries. So because we're looking for visit, we're going to click on visit and find out how if you need a visa to do business or transit through Canada. So we click on that. It brings us to this page. It says find out what document you need to travel, visit family and friends, do business or transit to Canada, and also to extend your stay. And that's the reason and the purpose for this video today. You can read all this other information at your leisure time, like I said, but this is it. Apply for a visitor visa, apply for an ETA, stay in Canada longer, visitor visa for work and students, visit your children, visit Canada for business, transit through Canada, get border information for both. The one we're looking for is stay in Canada longer, so we'll click on it. When we have done that, it brings us to this page. It gives us information about the process, who can apply, how to apply, after you apply and traveling outside Canada. So on this page, there are people that have some issues. So depending on this particular 4 countries, they have to learn more about the information. So the fees for the extension is $100. Is $100, and processing time they say is 70 days. Now, the visitor record, you say when you first come to Canada as a visitor, you can use one of these documents to enter one as a visitor, ETA, a valid passport, or travel. Those are the documents you use. Now, if you want to extend your stay in Canada as a visitor, you need to apply for what we call a visitor record. Now, a visitor record is not a visa. A visitor record is a document that allows you to stay in Canada longer as a visitor, a worker authorized to work without a work permit in Canada, or a student authorized to study without a study permit in Canada. It also includes a new expiry date, and that's the date that you have to leave Canada, because it will come with a date. You have to leave Canada by that particular date. Let's look on and see more. If you guys think that I'm fast, you can always go back. I'll try and take it slowly. So when do you need to apply for a visitor record? You said you must apply before your current status expire. I will talk more about this as we go along with the video, okay? So just relax. There's more information about this extension. Now, a visitor record allows you to stay in Canada longer, but does not guarantee that when you leave Canada that you'll be able to enter. No, it only guarantees you as long as you are in Canada. So you can find out what you need to travel to Canada and out and inside Canada. So for those that feel that they will need to leave and return to Canada, you can read more. Okay, so now we're going to keep going because we have a lot of things to cover on this video. Who can apply? Let us find out information. Who can apply? Now, it tells us on this page, a visitor record is for people who want to do either of the following. So extend their stay in Canada as a visitor, a worker, a student, and also change their temporary resident category from a student to a visitor and a work permit to a visitor. It says that it doesn't matter if you entered Canada using visitor's visa or the ETA or another document. You'll need a visitor record if you intend to extend your stay in Canada as a visitor. That one is very important. They're always coming back to remind us about this. So at every point in this video, you might see this popping up. It's just as a reminder for those who are looking to extend their stay in Canada as a visitor. Okay, if you have any question about that, let me know in the comment section. So when do you need to apply? We're told that if you want to extend your stay as a visitor or change your status, you need to apply at least 30 days before your current status expires. Now, you're wondering what the expiry date will be. So the expiry date for your status will be on the stamp of your passport. That is, if the immigration officer stamp your passport, that is the date that you have to leave Canada. If they did not stamp it, that means 6 months from the day you enter Canada, that is when you start to apply. But so you have to check 30 days. Sorry, you have to check 30 days before that 6 months. That is the date you need to apply for your study permit extension or either of this other one. Now let us check how to apply. We're just going through the information slowly. So they said book your biometrics as soon as you can. But the truth is that to apply for a visitor record, as long as you have given your biometrics before, you don't need to. I will explain. Now, let us look at this. It says that you must apply online. Again, you see why I told you that it will always come back to it. Now, when you apply online, it is easier and faster for them because they will get your application instantly. It helps them to process your application faster. You see? Now, there are different reasons why applying online helps you. Said no courier fees or mailing delivery time. Your application will be received instantly. Your application may be processed more quickly. It also helps you to make sure that your application is complete before you submit. You can also quickly submit more documents online if they ask you to. Applying online, you can get updates on the status of your application. To apply online, you need a scanner or a camera in order for you to scan your documents. You also need a valid credit or debit card to pay your fees. Step 2 is very important. It says read the instruction guide. So even if you apply online, you have to read that instruction guide. We'll come back to it before you complete your application. The guide explains how you will complete each field of the form on the form. Many people use agents, but you don't need an agent because you can, if you read the instruction guide, which we will do later in this video, you would make it yourself. Now, in step 3, it says that you need to prepare your answers for the online tool. So before you upload your form, you need to answer a few questions to create a document checklist for you. And some of the questions include, what would you like to do in Canada? You have to select visit. Then they ask you what is your current territory of residence. Because we're extending our visa, we have to select what? Canada. That means we are already currently in Canada and want to extend our visitors visa. Please, for those outside of Canada, you have to apply for a new visitors visa. Now, step 4 says you have to create your online account. That is where you create your online account, pay your fees, submit your application, and also go back to check the status of your application. But we are going to go back because remember how I said we have to look at the read instruction guide. So click on that. It brings us to this page. Now we have to click this one because it's just talking about paper application. We don't need it. Now, applying to change conditions or extend your stay in Canada is an online application. So the guide is 5551. It tells us everything we need to know. Okay? But it says that most people cannot apply online. So if you have a disability of some sort, and you want to apply on paper, you have to click on show instructions to apply on paper. Now, this is just telling you about some legal information about the document. That's the instructions guide. It's just telling you that if you need more information, you should consult these other 2 documents. Now, and also saying that if you cannot apply online or use the forms in this guide because of some other reason, you can also ask for other formats like Braille and other things, or you contact the client support center, or you submit a web form. Now, this goes on to tell you about the guide. It helps you to determine if you're eligible to apply for either an extension or a change condition of your stay in Canada as a visitor. It also gives you other instructions and applications form that you need to complete and submit. If you're a temporary resident and you're already in Canada and you want to extend your stay or change the conditions of your stay or correct problems with your status, that is when you need to fill this form. It is important, guys, for you to apply for the change before your current status expires. Now it's talking about the TRV or the ETA, how you can go about applying for those. So you can go ahead, guys, and read this particular portion at your leisure time, or you can always go back to rewind this video. We will not dwell much on this because we have, like I said, we have a lot to cover on today's video. Okay, so let us keep scrolling down, and it's talking about biometrics. It says that as of December 3rd, you need to give your biometrics when you apply from within Canada, but there's a caveat to that which we are going to get to very soon. Let us go down, let us scroll down and see what it says about how to give your biometrics and information about biometrics. It says you only need to give your biometrics once every 10 years. You don't need to give your biometrics again until the 10-year period has expired. Now, if you give your biometrics as part of an application for a visitor's visa or a study permit or a work visa, they are still valid, and you don't need to give a biometrics for this application to extend your status as a visitor in Canada. Okay, that's the information you need to know for those who are wondering about biometrics. Let's keep going down. There are different places you can book your appointments for biometrics. You will click that link for that. Let's talk about how you can determine your eligibility. It says visitors are temporary residents who are legally authorized to enter Canada for either holiday, to visit family, or conduct business. They are restricted in the length of period that they can stay in the country. Uh, it tells us that if your current temporary residence status is still valid, you can apply for an extension, but apply at least 30 days before your current status would what expire. So you can read more about this, guys. This is just telling you how to determine if you're eligible to extend your stay as a visitor in Canada. Now, the validity of your status cannot exceed the validity of your passport. That's why you need to ensure that your passport is valid for the same amount of time as your requested extension. So make sure that your passport is a longer validity so that you can get a longer validity when you extend your visitor's visa. That is it. You can read more information about this, but we need to move on forward. All right, so moving on, guys, let us talk about the if you are a family. If you're a family, it says that each member of the family must apply to do so. But if you all apply at the same time, each person has to submit a separate application form and pay their own fee. Okay, so if your temporary resident status has expired, it says do not apply for an extension because you are no longer eligible. That means you have broken the law, you have committed an offense, and there are other things you need to do, which is to apply for a restoration of status. Now, they're telling us that there is no guarantee that even if you do send your application, that it will be accepted. So try as much as possible not to break the law or commit an offense by staying longer than when you are supposed to stay in Canada. Why? Because it is illegal to remain in Canada beyond the validity of your status in Canada. It's also illegal to work without a required work permit and illegal to study without a required study permit. Now, if you have read this thing and you believe that you are good to go, you have to start making your application. That is what this place is telling us. Okay? Now, let us talk about the processing times for your application. You say the processing time will review your application and determine if it is complete first and foremost. That's the first thing that they do when you submit your application to come to Canada or to extend your stay as a visitor in Canada. They are the ones that will do that. And once your application is complete, they will send you either of these things, either a visitor record, a new work permit, or a new study permit, or they will send you a letter to refuse your application or a notification that your application has been referred to another immigration center for further processing. Now, if it is done like that way, if they refer your application, they will contact you to obtain additional information or clarification about your application. All right. Because the processing center receives large volumes of application, it is recommended that you apply at least 30 days. This is just telling you that at least 30 days. You can go on ahead and apply 1 month, 2 months before the expiration of your current status. Now, if you are parents and grandparents already in Canada, you may apply to extend your stay in Canada through the CPC. Now, who receives the temporary resident status is trying to tell us that all persons authorized to enter Canada who are not Canadian citizens or permanent residents are all temporary residents in the country. Now, how do I know the expiry date of my temporary resident status? Now, it's telling us that when you arrived in Canada, you gave your passport to the officer. They authorized by your stay by placing a stamp. That stamp is the date that you have to leave Canada by. But if you don't have a stamp on your passport, that means that you will calculate 6 months from the date that you arrived in Canada. If you are given a visitor record, the expiry date will be shown on that document. Okay? That's very important information that most people have asked me in different times. And this plot is just giving you a note that for those who require a temporary resident visa to enter into Canada and wish to remain in Canada, this is what they need to do. Okay? And for those who need an ETA to enter into Canada, they need to read this particular document and click on that link for electronic travel authorization. Okay? It's very important that you do that. Now, temporary residents traveling with passport. If you don't require a passport to enter Canada, it says that your temporary resident status will expire 6 months from the date you entered into Canada unless there is a stamp on your passport. Okay? Now, what information do you need to apply for a temporary extension of your temporary residence? It says full details on why you want to stay in Canada longer. Proof of your identity, which might be your passport. Evidence of how you will support yourself, which means you will need something like a guarantor's letter, a bank statement of the person that is going to help you out with that, and details of when you intend to leave Canada, which will be your itinerary, your travel ticket. May I leave Canada before my request has been finalized? It says yes. However, if you leave and you don't have a new document to re-enter Canada, you have to apply either at the port of entry if you have the right to do so. Now, some people have asked me, I leave and enter Canada again. It says in order to return to Canada, you must have a valid passport or travel document. You must have a visa before you can re-enter into Canada. That is very key. It's very important you know this. If you're a citizen of a country that requires a temporary resident visa or its ETA, you also need it to be in possession of a valid entry visa to return into Canada. So now here is telling you if you are from US or either of these countries that you need to have at least a travel document when you are entering into Canada. Okay, we move ahead, guys. We have a lot to cover today on this video. I'm sorry the video is long, but we have to do this so that it is well detailed. It's now saying that it is possible that you will not be able to enter Canada because the final decision is always made by the officer at the port of entry. If you're a citizen of the US and you do not require passport or travel documents to enter into, it's just saying that if you are a citizen of US, you don't require a passport or a travel document. You can use your ID card to enter into Canada. That's what this place is saying. Now, in terms of those who need to restore their status in Canada because they've committed an offense, you need to apply within 90 days of losing your passport. That's if you lost it because you stayed in Canada longer than the period you authorized. You change different employers, your location of employment or your type of work, or you change the type of studies that you are doing in Canada. This is the reason why you lose your status in Canada. You need to apply to restore your status within 90 days of losing it if you fall within this particular options. Okay, we'll move ahead, guys. We have a lot to cover today. So if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. If you wish to obtain a new study or work permit and restore your status, it says you have to submit your application within 90 days. I've said this before, guys. You also provide details of why you committed the offense of staying in Canada longer than the date that you are supposed to. You also need to keep meeting the requirements of your stay, meet all the conditions on your permit, and you have to pay a restoration fee of $229. These guys are not joking, guys. Do not commit that offense. Do not stay in Canada longer than the time you are supposed to stay. Now, restoration applies to each family member so if you have a family member of 5, everybody needs to apply separately, and there is no guarantee that your application will be accepted, because the officer needs to review and evaluate and then advise you of any further action. You may not study or work in Canada until your application for restoration has been processed. Now, the forms that you need to apply as a package for your extension in Canada are all these documents. Guys, take note of all these documents that are here, and you can also use the document checklist to assist you in gathering the important documents you need to submit your application to extend your visa in Canada. Now, the documentation you use, that's the personalized document, will give you more information about what you need to do. And please, guys, know that you need to provide truthful, accurate information, and it's an offense to knowingly make a false statement on your form. So there's no excuse that, I forgot, I did not know. It is not going to be there because it is already an offense that you have made. Now, to start the application, if you do not have an UCI, leave the place empty. Now, this is telling us how we need to apply to extend our stay in Canada by filling that form 5708 if you are looking to extend your stay in Canada. Now, let us look at how we can complete the forms. One step by step, guys. This place is going to tell us how we can go ahead in completing this form to reduce the risk of errors that can slow down the process of our application. So these steps that we are going to read now, you need to follow these steps because it will help you to fill your form accurately. Question 1, we ask you about your UCI number. If you don't have, just leave that place blank. This question 2, we ask your language preference. You either choose English or French. Question 3, we say you should pick one of these options. If you're applying for either of these 3, you pick one of them. For us, we are applying to extend our temporary resident status in Canada. Okay, so we move to the next one, which is question 4. So not question 4, but the personal details for question 1. So it tells you, for those who don't even know how they will put their names, it's telling you your family name is your surname, because I know from people from back home, family name, they might be having issues about it. So is your surname as it appears on your passport document. And if you don't have a family name, some Indians don't have family names on their passport. It says enter all the given names and given name on the given name field and leave it blank. Type all your names, and even if you don't have a given name, it says do not enter asterisk not applicable or NA. You must fill in something on that portion. You can read more here, guys, about that. Now, question 2 is talking about nickname or alias. So there are some people that have maiden name, especially married women, or names that they've used in the past. You will click yes, and you will give those names. Okay, starting with your family name and your given name. For question 3, select if your gender. So if you are female, male, or another gender, you fill that one in, and it explains what it means when you see notes. So the government of Canada makes it easier for people to understand how to do this themselves. For question 4, you have to indicate your date of birth, and it tells you how you can go about it. Now, if you don't know your date of birth, just put asterisk on that. Then you have to put your city, town, or country of birth as it is on your passport document. And select your country of citizenship. So if you're a Nigerian, you would look for Nigeria. If you have dual citizenship, then select the country that issued the passport that you're going to use for your trip. Now, from the list, question 7 is saying that indicate your immigration status in Canada. For those who are looking to extend, you have to click on visitor. If you have other of these ones, you have to click the one that corresponds to you. Now, for those that are out of status, you have to click foreign national. That's those who are out of status applicants. You have to select foreign national. That is who you are. Okay. Any question about that? Let me know in the comment section. Question 8 asks you how many countries or which country you have lived more than 6 months in the last 5 years. If you click yes, you have to indicate the name of the country, your immigration status for the time you were in that country. Either you're a citizen, you're a visitor, or you're a student. Then if you selected other, you have to explain the dates you were living in that country. All right. Now, question 9 on the form, we ask you to choose your marital status. Either annulled marriage, common law, divorced, legally separated, and married. And it also explains what these things mean. For those who will be asking, what is the meaning of divorce? What's the meaning of legally separated? This particular part we explain to you. If you're married to, it tells you single, it tells you widowed, it tells you. Now, you also need to enter the dates you are married, the name of your spouse, and if you are in a common law partner or not. You have to put that inside it. Now, it gives you information about a common law union. You have to complete another form in your application. If you are married, you have to submit a photocopy of your marriage certificate. Now, question 10 says if you have been previously married before or in a common law relationship, if you checked yes, you have to provide the family name, given name, type of relationship, the date you were married. In terms of the question 1 that we talked about, the language is your native language. It says this is the language that you learnt at home from your childhood. Now, if your native language is not English or French, you have to select the one that you will use most. Most people will use English to want to communicate. So you can choose English, French, both or neither of the two. Okay, we move on to passport information. So type your valid passport number the way it is on your document. Also, for question 2 under passport, select the name of the country that issued your passport. Now, question 3 for passport, you need to enter the date your passport was issued. Then you need to also put the dates your passport will expire. You also, question 5 will ask you yes or no if you're using a passport issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Taiwan. Question 6 will talk if you are using a national Israeli passport. You answer yes or no. If you have a national identity document, you say yes or no. And if you say yes, you have to answer all these other questions about it, about the national identity card. If you are using a USPR card, you either answer yes or no, and you continue to complete all these forms. Now, your contact information, you have to put in your current mailing address the way it is stated on here. When you do that, it says all your correspondence will go to that address unless you indicate that in your email address, unless you indicate your email address. Now, if you wish for somebody to conduct business on your behalf, you have to fill the use of representative form IMM 5476. So this is how telling you how you have to fill your residential address. It gives you the options for it. Now they're talking about telephone number, either US, Canada, or any other country. You fill it whether it's a mobile number, it's a resident number, or it's a business phone number. You do all of that. And if you have a fax number, you also click that and then type your email address. Your email address should be correct because that is how IRCC would respond or communicate with you. Okay, that is the information you need to know. You can go back and read this particular one. And please, guys, always check your junk folder because sometimes emails get filtered in there. Now, the question of coming to Canada, it will ask you the date and place when you first entered into Canada and the purpose of your visit in Canada at that time. For us, it will be visits. Then provide the date and place of your recent entry to Canada. If it was Toronto Pearson, you put that. And then provide the document of your most recent record, you put that there. And then details of your visit to Canada. The first question will be, why do you want to extend your stay in Canada? For some or most people, it will be family visit. Okay. And if you choose other, you have to provide details. So if you are here to extend your stay because of medical reasons, you have to explain why. Now, for question 2, indicate how long you plan to stay using the from and to fields, and indicate the amount of money you have available for your stay. If you have a family relative that you're going to stay with during the extension, you have to include their name, the relationship, and the address of that person. You also need to put information about your education. If you have gone to public school, private school, master's degree, PhD, or bachelor's degree, you have to click yes. If you click yes, you have to put this other information about your education. All right, you can go back and read it. You also need to give them information about your employment. So if your work or your occupation, so you have to let them know the dates you have been working at your occupation. Year and month is what they read for the last 10 years. That is the information. If you are retired, you have to provide 10 years before your retirement. Okay. Now, indicate all of that and then to ask you your previous activity or occupation for the last 10 years. If you need more space, you have to print an additional page of the form and complete it when you send your application. Now, for background information, you have to complete this one. So, if you any of your family members had tuberculosis or any of these health issues, if you click yes, you have to give information. Now, the next question tells you to indicate if you have remained longer or you have been refused any kind of visa. If you say yes, you have to provide more details. For question 3, it will ask you more information about how if you are committed anything, if you have ever committed or been arrested, you have to, if you click yes, you have to provide more details. If you have served in the military, if you say yes, you have to give more details. You also need to say yes or no if you have been a member of any political party or organization that has been doing any of these things. You have to declare that information yes or no. You also say yes or no if you have witnessed any ill treatment. And once you have finished all this part, guys, you have to click on the validate button online to see or generate a barcode like this. The barcode page will not appear if you fill out your application by hand. If you're 18 years and above, you have to sign and date the boxes provided at the bottom of the page on your form. You have to do this electronically because you are doing it online, all right? You see, again, it's telling you that you do not need to print out your application since you're doing it online. The use of the representative form 5476 is if you are appointing somebody to represent you in directly communicating with IRCC on your application. That is when you need to fill that form. You see it here. That's the information that is there to conduct business on your behalf with IRCC. Okay. You are not obliged, guys, to hire a representative. The IRCC treats everyone equally, whether you use the service of a representative or not. So you see, you don't need to pay somebody to do that. Now, if there are any changes after you fill the application, always use the web form. You can click on that link. Now, pay the required fees, and we all know that the required fees for this extension is $100. So we have to do that. We have to pay that. Nobody is telling you it is $10,000 or this. The dollar amount for extension is $100. So it goes on to tell you more information about the fees. So to extend your stay as a visitor is $100. To restore your status is $229. For your biometrics is $85 per person. If it's more than one person, you calculate by how many more people. So this one is just telling you if your fee will be refunded and how and why your fees are refunded. They are giving you reasons for that. Okay. And also, they are also telling you why you need to uh how you need to pay your fees for your application, which is always done online. But before that happens, you have to create an online account in order for your payments to be completed. Now, what happens if you pay an incorrect fee? I say it may delay your application. If you have no fee included, they will return your application and only start processing after you return your application with the correct fees. So there are the information about refunds. Guys, you can read more about this. To submit your application online, you have to apply and click that apply online. But we'll get there, guys. We'll get there. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Don't worry. Now I'll say what happens next. If they will inform you in writing if there's any issue with your application, they will let you know. If the extension of your visitor's visa is granted, they will send you a document. If your application is refused, you can only stay in Canada until the expiration date of your current status. This is more information, guys. If your application is rejected as incomplete, it is considered that you've never submitted your application before. Now, there are certain things that can help you to ensure that your application is processed as fast as possible. Ensure that all your documentation and information requested is provided with your application. Check your application status online. Guys, you can click on that. But we're going to go back to see how we can apply. There's an how to do video that you can click to save time and complete your information. But let us go straight to apply online. We'll soon end this video, guys. So you need to open an IRCC account. Check if any of this applies to you. We're going to click on this thing before we click on the other one, how to apply or register for an account. Let's go back. So check if it's the right account for you. You can apply for these applications. The ones that are listed here are the ones you can apply for. You can read this slowly, guys. You can check the status of your application too here. If your application is not listed, you have to review the program and instructions on how to apply for either of these: visit, immigrate Canada, study in Canada, work in Canada, and all of that. But we are looking for how we're going to apply for the IRCC account. So we scroll back up. We'll scroll back up. We'll keep scrolling. We'll get there. Get visitor visa instructions. So that's what we're going to do on how to apply. So you need to answer, why are you applying for a visitor's visa? We're going to say for a family visit. Who is your family member? What's your family member status? I will say Canadian citizen. Do you plan to visit children and grandchildren? I will say no and continue. Now it tells us to gather our document, and it tells us all the documents that we need for that particular thing that we're looking to apply for, which is to extend our stay. It tells you step by step everything you need in order to make your application complete. Documents they don't accept, documents that you need to include, they tell you step by step. Now, let us apply through the IRCC portal. That is what you need to click on. You get an invite code, create an account, and sign in. It is the first thing. If it's the first time you're using the portal, you need to get an invite code to create an account. So that is what you to look like. This is what you need. So sign in to your IRCC portal, or you get an invite code. Let us do that. So this is how you sign in. And now if you don't have an account, you need to sign up for a new account. Get the invite code, put your email address and a password, confirm your password, your surname, your given name, your telephone number, and you sign up. That is how you do it, guys. There is no agent that you need in order to apply for an extension of your study permit or your visitor's visa, or even apply for a visitor visa. Thanks for watching, guys.